Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this next installment of the Northwest Chamber of Commerce Member Interview Studio Session. Joining us today from Eagles Nest Country Club is Ramesh Sundaresan, our friend and one of our newest members to the Chamber. Welcome, Ramesh. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Emily.
We were really excited. We had a great networking event with Ramesh at Eagles Nest Country Club a few weeks back, and we're certainly looking forward to doing more in the spring. So definitely a club that anyone should check out who has an interest. So getting into our interview, my first question for you is, how did you first get into the world of golf?
It's a great question. It's something that I didn't actually get into until later in life. So in 1997, Tiger Woods turned professional and won the Masters, which was his first professional major that he played in record fashion. He not only won by a significant number, a historical number, but it was just something that inspired me to really take up the game simply by watching him win. I hadn't really played golf before that, and it took me to the level of bare interest into a much deeper level. So I would have to say, in short, I first took up golf because of Tiger.
That's great. And I mean, he was such a phenomenon for so long, and it definitely both inspirational and just entertaining to watch. I mean, he was amazing. He still is, but a great time to be watching. And
Sure.
what is it that you love? I mean, as the director of membership at Eagles Nest, of course, you love the sport, you love the game, you love, all those aspects, but what is it that you love most about working in that field?
So I didn't actually start working in this field until, again, even later in life. I made a career change back in 2018 when I became the director of membership of another country club, and have since moved up to the Eagles Nest, same position, director of membership here. The number one thing that I love about my job is the daily interaction that I have with not only prospective members, people that are interested in joining, but also the existing membership that we have up here. They're very welcoming, and they've been that way right from the beginning. And I really enjoy coming to work every day, which is, especially in times like these, it's really something that I feel very thankful for.
Yeah. And that's great. I mean, my father is a golfer, as you know, my husband is a golfer, and you grow up in that kind of club atmosphere, and it's just nice when it feels like a family and everyone is so kind, and it just makes it all that much better.
For sure. And I think the atmosphere that we have here at the club is definitely one that is welcoming. It's not elitist at all. And you definitely, once you kind of get to know the members, you definitely feel like it's a second home.
Right. That's great. Now, during your time there, has there been a favorite moment that you've experienced?
Yes. So I was thinking about this this one particular moment where I had signed somebody from a prospective member, and they became an existing member, and I hadn't seen them for probably 2 or 3 weeks, and I saw them on the first tee, and I went out to say hi and just kind of check up and see how everything was going with them. And he turned to me and he said, "Everything that you said about this club is true. You've actually undersold it." And I said, "Well, that's a great compliment." And he said, "I should have done this years ago. Thank you so much." And so for me, it's a really rewarding feeling when somebody gives me that kind of positive feedback. So I really, I'm very thankful that I've had that experience multiple times, but he was the first one when I was first kind of getting going here up at Eagles Nest that had that. And it just really empowered me to feel like I was doing a really good job.
Yeah. And that is probably really rewarding, especially, it's a place where people like to spend their time, whether it's business or pleasure, it's where they're spending their time. And that's probably a really great feeling. Love that.
It is. And I think that it reinforces the fact that I feel like I'm doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
So and there was another idea that I had in terms of kind of making sure to like be able to branch out that with that and offer open houses and invite neighborhoods. We haven't been able to do a lot of those things that we would normally be doing here at the club in terms of community outreach, which is why it was great that we were able to have that meeting here with the chamber when everybody came up. We missed the sunset that day, but we're going to have one in the spring, I'm sure.
Yes. We'll enjoy it then in the beautiful scenery. It'll be good. How about any interesting or funny experiences at the club working there?
Well, when I first started working here, and actually this is something that happened right when I was interviewing to get this position. So on my drive up to the in-person interview, I realized that it was the same exact drive that I would make when I was actually driving up to go to high school. So I went to Calvert Hall, and this was the same route that I would take. And so it was very familiar to me. And because I would commute up from the Columbia area, and I'd take the same roads up, and I was like, wow, a lot of this seems very familiar and exactly the same, in fact. And so at that point, I felt like I was destined to get the job.
Mm-hmm.
So, which became true.
The nostalgia of the drive, and it's just all supposed to happen. That's a good feeling, though, that, you know, that really does happen. I like that.
Right. It was, it definitely put me at ease. And I knew where I was going. So that was the other part. I didn't get lost on the way there.
It
So
makes
really,
the daily commute good.
So ever since then, my daily commute, it kind of brings back a lot of good memories from high school.
That's great. I didn't know that. That's really, really nice. So a little more on the personal side, Ramesh, is there a favorite word in your vocabulary that you live by, a word that you try to practice, or anything like that?
I don't know if this is a word that I live by, but when I was doing an exercise with my son recently where we would take the letters of his name, and each of those letters we would turn into a descriptive word about who he was. And so my son's name is Rohan, and his first letter is R, just like my name is Ramesh, my first letter is R. And we both had chosen the same word independently. So when I was a kid, I did this exercise, and my word was rambunctious. And that's the exact word that he chose as well. So we're just two rambunctious boys.
That's interesting, though, for you guys to pick the same word, and that's a good word, though. It's a great word.
Lots of energy, I guess, just high energy. I mean, I don't know if it's a word to live by, but it's certainly an interesting word that's kind of represented me in a lot of my life.
It's a great descriptive word, and it's yeah, I like that.
Okay.
How about a favorite sound or noise? I mean, if you like working to music or relaxing to music or anything like that.
Sure. I mean, I like music. I played the violin when I was growing up. My sister played the piano, so very musical family. But if I was to pick a specific noise, it would be the sound of pure impact when it comes to hitting a golf ball. That is one of the best sounds, I think, that I can hear personally. So
now, how about piggybacking off of that? Is there a club in particular that makes that sound that you prefer?
well, there's obviously there's irons and the driver.
Right.
I love it when I hit the driver really well and it sounds really good.
I like
So
that.
yeah, I'd say the driver.
That's a great answer. So what other profession, other than your own, would you have like to try at some point in your life? I know you said you started this later, so anything else?
Sure. I wish I'd started playing golf earlier because I do have an aptitude for it, and I wish I could have kind of pursued it as a career path. That didn't happen, which is fine. So I think that a different career for me would be um, potentially getting into becoming like a day trader, something along those lines, like the
Okay.
stock market, day
Yeah,
trader. Yeah.
it's an interesting one. That's good. And then how about the most important question? What is one business lesson that you wish you would have learned prior to starting your career as a whole even? I mean, just something you wish you would have
Hmm.
known.
So this is a great question. There are lots of things that I think that if I were to go back and have a conversation with myself back when I was first starting to work, I think the number one point of that conversation would be do the thing that you love.
Mhm.
And then the thing that you love will lead you to a career that you find rewarding. Being in the workforce can get tedious. It can be something that, in the day-to-day experience, it can quite frankly wear you down a little bit. And I was in a career for a long time, and I enjoyed it in the time that I was doing it, but at the same time, it wasn't necessarily the thing that I was the most passionate about. So I was a creative director at a graphic design and printing firm, and I was basically sitting in front of a computer for hours on end. And I look back at that time and I look at what my day-to-day life is now, where there's a lot more variability. I can be literally out on the golf course with a prospective member playing golf, and then just having nice conversations and meeting new people, which is personality wise fits in quite well. So for me, if I was going to go back and talk to myself when I was 22 and starting in the workforce, I'd say find out what it is that you love. Because I don't think I'd found golf yet. So find out what it is that you love and do that.
That's a great one. Because I mean, that's
Yeah.
really applicable to everyone too, because sometimes what you're good at isn't always what you love and vice versa. And that's a really
Right.
important lesson. I like that
Yeah.
answer. Well, thank you,
Thanks.
Ramesh. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Emily.
It
Sure.
was really nice to get to know you a little more on our interview today. Anyone who is interested in taking a look at Eagles Nest Country Club, definitely contact Ramesh. He's a great host and it's a beautiful course, and you definitely will enjoy it. We look forward to having more events with you as well, and we hope you have a really good holiday season.
Thanks, Emily. It's been a pleasure. Have a
Thank
great
you.
one.
You too.